We welcome on now Jon Heyman, our Odyssey MLB insider, who joins us on the GetMyPhoenix.com guest line. The Phoenix is a revolutionary technology helping men all across America get back to their best in the bedroom. Visit GetMyPhoenix.com to learn more. Jon, thanks so much for joining us, man. Before we get into the World Series, I'm a selfish person, so I have to ask you about the Chicago Cubs because there's some free agents out there. Obviously, Aaron Judge, Anthony Rizzo decides he's going to test free agency. Any chance Tom Ricketts actually spends some money this offseason for my Chicago Cubs, Jon?
Well, they've said they're going to spend some money. We're waiting to see how much money that will be. I'm a little skeptical. They certainly made some big profits the last few years. So I'm skeptical. We'll see. I can't see Judge going to a team that was a losing team this year. They did play well the last couple months, but that would be tough to see. And Rizzo, I think he's probably still mad at them for the way the negotiation went.
Jon,
so I don't see that either.
Jon, you're talking about Judge, obviously big free agent with the Mets too, is Jacob deGrom. Do you think it's more likely we see deGrom leave the Mets or Judge leave the Yankees?
I would say deGrom leave the Mets. Judge looked like he really enjoyed himself this year, as you would expect he would, breaking a home run record. I think there's every advantage to remaining with the Yankees. I think deGrom was upset about his contract, and he's going to go wherever he gets the best contract. And I'm skeptical as to whether that'll be the Mets. I think Texas is going to be in play. I'm not sure who else, but obviously extremely talented pitcher, but will not be surprised at all if he leaves the Mets.
You mentioned that Jacob deGrom not happy about how his contract situation went. But a little bit with Judge, with the way that the arbitration went down, where he hit that walk-off and they still kind of made it seem like he was going to have to go to arbitration the next day, the leaking of the contract terms. Do you think there's a real chance that Judge is going to accept a legitimate, significant hometown discount, especially considering that the Giants say that they will not be outbid?
Yeah, I don't really believe that the Giants will not be outbid. I don't think that's a very good negotiating strategy to go in with, at least publicly. Maybe privately you could say that. So I'm a little skeptical about that. I do think the Giants will be in play. There'll be a lot of teams in play. The guy is fantastic. I do expect the Yankees to make, if not the best offer, right up there. And, I think the legacy is important. Whether it's important to him, I guess we'll find out. I think there are some Yankee people who are kind of worried about it. But I would say that it would be smart for him to stay. I think it just behooves him to stay. They are a winning team. That's a good ballpark for him. And for his legacy, you can see what it does for Derek Jeter. Obviously won 5 championships, but, if you're an old-time Yankee, I think it's a major plus, not just for marketing and selling goods, but just in general for your legacy.
How come you think it's going to be that the Yankees are going to field one of the highest offers? Because everything that Hal Steinbrenner has said has felt pretty tepid in terms of potentially overpaying for Judge.
Well, they have the biggest revenue, and I think at this point they understand his value. And obviously, I thought the offer was reasonable. The first one, the $213.5, it was obviously light. He was not happy to be below Rendon in particular. Rendon, $35 million a year, and good for Rendon. He's obviously quite a great negotiator that he was able to get that. But Judge was correct. He should not have been below Rendon. They picked Mookie Betts' contract because Mookie is frankly underpaid. And, not only does he only make $30.5, he's got a lot of deferred money in that. So it's not even worth the $30.5. So, I think they probably underbid. He probably was upset, as you guys have implied. And, he probably didn't love them announcing the contract offer. But, if that's your reason for leaving, I don't think that's a very good reason. You should have a better reason than that. I think generally it's been a positive for him to be a Yankee.
Jon, I was shocked today to learn that David Stearns was going to step away as his role as the Brewers president of baseball operations. You look at it, he's probably the most successful general manager that Milwaukee's ever had. He says he just needs a break. He's not taking any other jobs with any other organizations. Do you buy that? Because, a couple years ago we were talking about him like he was a boy wonder, and then this year, a lot of questionable moves. They do trade away Josh Hader who was just pitching in the NLCS. They didn't really add a bat at the deadline. What do you think's going on there, if you have any information at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would mostly be speculating, but I think it's pretty clear that he didn't want to be extended in Milwaukee. I'm sure that they wanted to extend him, and he's got a year left. It's clear that he was going to leave after the year. You know, he is from New York, so maybe he's read everything and understands that they're interested in him in New York, or maybe in just a different big market. And you know, rather than bring him back as a lame duck general manager who has no real stake in the team beyond this year, they'd rather just have him be a consultant, which means, you know, basically do nothing potentially and just be paid what they were paying him. So, you know, personally, I would think they should let him interview for another job if he wants to, rather than keep him on ice for a year. But you know, by rules, they are allowed to decline interviews. He did sign that contract, and it does have another year to go.
Yeah, and you'd think the Mets would probably be his dream job, right?
You know, I don't. Yeah, he hasn't confided in me, but you know, he's from New York. I believe he went to Columbia Prep on the Upper West Side. He worked in the commissioner's office. He was a Mets intern. Omar Minaya had hired him. So, I mean, and the fact he didn't sign in Milwaukee, which is, I mean, it's a nice job. It's a nice place by the nice lake, or a great place by a great lake, whatever the saying is.
Yeah.
I think because he didn't sign, I think it's pretty clear what would be better than Milwaukee for him. It would probably be a big market, whether it's New York or some other big market. I'm guessing. You know, it's speculating.
Right.
John, Orioles, they were really the surprise team of the MLB this year. Their future is bright. Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, they have some nice cornerstones. Grayson Rodriguez as well. Their GM, Mike Elias, he said that they're going to be busy spenders here during the winter meetings, during the offseason. Do you think they can attract any of these big names to come to Baltimore?
I wouldn't think the really big names. I mean, I can't imagine that Judge would go there. They moved that left field fence back 26 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, basically, you know, it takes quite a poke to get it out there. So I think they did that to attract pitching.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what they need. You know, the starting pitching was not good, and so, you know, they have very good position players. Gunnar Henderson, you know, obviously Rutschman, as you mentioned. They've got other guys coming. They obviously drafted Holiday. You know, I don't know that they would go for the big shortstop. They seem to have that covered with guys already. So I would say they're going to concentrate on pitching. So probably not the biggest free agents, but, you know, because I wouldn't think that they would spend the money for DeGrom or Verlander, but I think they'll certainly enhance the rotation. I think that's their goal. And certainly moving the fence back in left field, that might be able to attract some good pitching.
Obviously, the Mets have to take care of some of the guys that they need to figure out whether they want to re-sign with Nimmo, obviously the issue with DeGrom and some others, Edwin Diaz. Who do you think, though, they'll truly be in the running for this winter? Because it feels like in the Steve Cohen era, he is going to want to take some bigger swings. And I know that there's been some rumors about potentially Shohei Ohtani being in the mix. What do you think about just kind of their outlook this winter?
Yeah, well, I'm not counting on Ohtani being traded. They didn't trade him at the deadline, which, you know, if you're going to trade him, you trade him with 2 years to go, not 1 year.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's too likely. Obviously, they'd be interested if he was out there, although they do like to keep their prospects. That showed at the deadline. You know, I think that Diaz is probably the guy of the stars most likely to stay, and I think they'd like to keep him. I think they'll keep Ottavino, or certainly give it a shot. He's another New Yorker, so I could see that. You know, I mean, they're gonna make offers to Nimmo and DeGrom and probably Bassett as well. I mean, they've got Taijuan Walker, they've got Lugo, they got 7 really good free agents. You know, from, I guess you would put DeGrom at the top in terms of the per year that he's going to get. Maybe Lugo at the bottom, but those are 7 guys that really help them. So, you know, I think they're going to probably keep 3 or 4 of them probably, and then they're going to have to go and get some others. So it's going to be another expensive winter for Steve Cohen.
Yeah, John. Oh, yeah. Trisha got one more.
Just really quickly, if you had to peg one big-time free agent that the Mets could actually go after and achieve, who do you think that would be?
Well, I would say that I don't expect them to go after Judge. He might fit if they lose Nimmo. They could move Marte to center. So, but I don't expect that. They've got a lot of holes to fill, particularly in the pitching staff. If I were going to guess, I would say Rodon might be a guy from the outside. Verlander, I doubt he wants to come to New York. So shortstops, there's 4 great shortstops on the market, but they've got Lindor, so we can rule those guys out. So, I would say Rodon, but he's going to have a big market. There are going to be a lot of teams interested because, there are 3 great pitchers on the market, Verlander, DeGrom, and then Rodon, probably in that order. They each separated themselves. They're top-of-the-line starters. There are a lot of good starters like Bassett and Walker and Tyone and many others, but there are 3 that are really top of the rotation type guys. So I could see them, Walker and Bassett, if they lose them, and DeGrom, you've got to get pitching. So I could see Rodon for them.
John, as you could tell, we're Chicago, New York, and Baltimore fans, so we haven't even asked you about the World Series yet. Who do you like in the World Series? Do you give the Phillies any chance? This Astros team, I look at that rotation, the bullpen, the lineup, I don't find one weakness, but the Phillies are hot right now. We've seen it happen before.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Phillies. I'm doing that because of the opposite. My instinct is to pick the Astros, and I'm consistently wrong. So I'd like to be right for a change, and I'm going to go opposite. It's kind of a Costanza thing. I just don't believe that I don't believe there's prohibitive favorite in a short series, and I still consider 7 games a short series. I've seen too many upsets. Some major ones like 1990 where the A's, everybody was sure they were going to win. They lost. The Tigers twice were big favorites, and they lost. The teams that are big favorites do not necessarily win. I know people were crying about the 5-game series not big enough in the division series, which to me is nuts because we've always had a 5-game series in the division series. But I don't know that a 7-game series gives the favorite that much greater of a chance to do it. In those 2 division series, the favorite was down 3-1 in the National League, Atlanta and Los Angeles. So who's to say they were going to win 3 in a row anyway? Philly's hot, Harper's hot, Schwarber's hot, Nola's really good, Ranger Suarez is pitching well, Wheeler's good. They fixed the bullpen. The defense is up to average now at this point, which is good enough. I think they got a shot. I know on paper Houston looks unbeatable, but the game's not played on paper, and I think Philly's got a good thing going.
John, really quick, we have about a minute. If you had to place a bet for World Series MVP, who would it be?
Well, it would be Harper, but the odds probably aren't that great, except that I think, I'm sure Houston's a very big favorite. So, people are figuring the MVP doesn't come off a losing team. But since I'm picking Philly anyway, it's pretty easy for me to say Harper is the pick, and if it wasn't Harper, I'd go Schwarber. They're hot, and they're good in the clutch.
Love it, John. I'm going Schwarber, too. And people forget that my team once had Kyle Schwarber, and then they just DFA'd him. We didn't even get anything in return, and now he's playing in another World Series, and that's why it's going to be a hard series for me to watch. But hopefully it's enjoyable. Thanks so much for giving us some time.
Thanks.
Enjoy the World Series,
awesome.
John.